There we go. I made Eric redo that and he yelled at me. Eric's gonna have the end of me, but
what's he doing?
Hey, he's probably still sulking over the fact we lost 2 hours and 13 minutes of podcasting. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this right now. Like, I was just so defeated when I lost all that footage, and you know, they're in the process of moving right now. So he's like, so that was like the last thing he decided to pack.
Oh right, the wife kept it out so you could.
The wife was like, "Come on." The wife was like, "Come on, let's just."
He's sitting there in the empty house recording a podcast.
Yeah, and it's just like you do all that work and then you bosh it. And basically, what it was is he couldn't get his camera to work on his computer, so he connected. We talked through his phone on Zoom app, but he had a phone case over it, and the volume recording came from his phone, and he muted the mic because at that point he had two sources of sound, so he muted the wrong one, and now I just have this muffled kerfuffle of stuff, and I was just like, I tried to just sit there and painstakingly separate the voice from and I got to like 3 minutes and 10 seconds in, and I was just like, you know what?
It's trash.
Worse things have happened to me.
Yeah,
trash.
Sometimes you just gotta. It's a sunk cost. Cut your losses.
Yeah. Cut. I did. Cut. Delete. Trash.
Start again. One thing that I guess I'm not harboring. I don't know, but it's always when you try to repeat the first authentic conversation, because you and I had talked via phone and discussed it, and then we went, oh, this would be a great podcast. It's like, it's almost as if you naturally ad-libbed a scene or improvised an acting scene because it was authentic. You did it, and I mean to the effect, we got the conversation down. It was, but. Maybe I'm just, I'm a hard critic on myself, but I was like, I wish we would have got it like how it was the first go around,
I mean, if you do this long enough, I can bring that same energy and tempo.
Yeah,
it's all about not being flat in your delivery.
No, for sure. I'm probably just struggling too because I am pretty sleepy right now. And I'm like, normally I would.
It's your bedtime.
I would make coffee, but then if I do, then I'm like, now I'm gonna be up all night and just gonna screw me up.
All right, then let's go ahead. Let's get the slow clap going. Come on, nice and easy. We're getting there. Get pumped, you guys. We're here. 300 subscribers. 300 subscribers. I don't care. 300 subscribers. I want it, goddammit.
What are you at right now?
All right, I'm at 212.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just crossed that grand line when I got to 200 because ever since we've gone live, we've had 2 people subscribe every week.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. So I mean, like, you're growing at a faster rate than you've ever have.
76 new subscribers this year compared to 10 last year.
Yeah. I mean, that's significant delta.
Yeah, I'll take it.
For sure.
Welcome to another episode of the Identity Booth, and congratulations to Guillermo on tying for being tied for first now for being the most concurrent guest, not concurrent, but most guest visits or
most frequent
statement. Most frequent guest on the podcast, Guillermo. Number 4, congratulations. Just get another round of applause. Get your energy going because I know it's sleepy time for you. He's now officially tied with Mama Bear. Jen, I dare you come back on this podcast.
Oh,
Jen,
man.
Jen, I dare you. I dare you to find time in your busy life to come say hi to Papa Bear. I double dog dare you.
So I guess this might come off as a little bit of shit talking, but I feel like now it's gonna. I don't know her, so I don't know if she's competitive or not. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, well I got 5. Oh yeah, well I got 5.
Everyone's racing to get to co-host. I think the official rule is now when you get to 10, you're official co-host, so you no longer have a bid in this race. But first to 10, baby. Hey, challenge Guillermo. I double dog dare you. Come on. it's just gonna help my numbers. But Guillermo, welcome back. He is the host of the Circuit of Life podcast, which can be found on all major podcasting platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Player FM, short jab right there, Google Play, and all other major platforms. It'll be in the description below. Please check it out. Guillermo, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Man, this is gonna be the combative version. This is the combative podcast right here. This is where me and you have disagreement on something, and not necessarily us, but me and you are gonna take certain sides just to make this conversation a little bit more interesting. Because me and you kind of draw the same lines on what our beliefs and stance are, but for the interest
like
of
the debate team.
Yeah, for the interest. You know what I'm missing right now? Hold on one second. I have not had my bear, and it goes right here, and I haven't had my bear in the podcast in a minute. My bad, bear. I don't know what happened or like who hurt me, but bear. But somebody said that to me. They're like, "Where's your bear at?" I'm like, "What bear?" And literally, I forgot all about my bear. Dr. Heero's in the building, y'all. It's 2020.
He's actually the most frequent guest.
Yes. Oh, he's actually the brains behind the he's the brains behind the whole thing.
Pay no attention to the man behind the surgeon's mask.
No. You don't challenge that person. But today we're going to be talking about something that came to my mind, and I'm going to speak from this perspective, as if it's true for me. And the question is, if the election is less than 50 days out, a lot has changed in this short amount of time. Perspectives have changed, understanding has changed, but more importantly, RBG Ruth is passed away today. 9/18/2020. Happy birthday, Nafi and Luke, my sister and brother.
Happy birthday.
She passed away today, and with her passing away, and I'm gonna do a live stream right after this to kind of give you guys the context of this. This means the Supreme Court justice spot is now open, and not only is it just open, that means Trump will have an opportunity to put 3 conservative-leaning Republican Supreme Court justice in office, giving it a 6-3 lean for the better of two lifetimes, changing our country. So now more than ever, if you, and this is my plea to the people, register and vote. I don't really care who you vote for, but your vote is going to ripple through your life, your kid's life, and the future. The future is at stake now. We are in the end game, and I think is more morally ambiguous, and as unconcerned as you might find yourself being in this political process, it's no longer about you anymore. It's about the greater good that can come from us not making a mistake in the near future. So with that being said, the question is now, in 2020, November 3rd, ballots will go out. And I have made a proclamation that if you're someone who can vote for Trump, I don't think you're someone I can be friends with anymore. And I'm not saying this from a situation of I want to fight you, but I'm definitely going to look at you differently because of your decision making. And just inherently based on our debate scheme, you don't agree with this position.
No, I don't.
All right. And let's start with, since I gave out the position, let's start with the facts, with what your problem is with this statement.
So it's to me, it's always just about the principle and the fundamental. We're really, you got to break down what's actually being said. And what is the system that's in place. And well, also just fun fact, there is a third candidate that got added to the ballot, but you go to the
Wait,
polls.
who? Wait,
Joe Jorgensen.
who the hell is that?
I only just found out about her this week.
It's a her?
Yes, female.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me we had a motherfucker named Kanye West who is a joke get on the ballot before someone who officially and with a purpose of being on the ballot got on the ballot?
Yeah, that's the true irony there of just kind of the state of what we see and what we believe, that there was quite a few people that I heard that legitimately believed that Kanye West was on the ballot. And no, he just said that and people believed him, but he is in fact not on the ballot. And the person that is in fact on the ballot, probably the vast majority of people are not aware that she's on the ballot.
Does she have a Facebook page?
I don't know. That's actually a good question. And I thought that too, of just in today's climate, that's really, like, why would you even spend all this money on advertising now? And all this is like, I'm like, just get on Facebook.
Okay. All right. Pushing forward. I don't want to think about it. This person is not going to win.
No, I highly doubt that she will win.
But okay, and I'm throwing shade. I don't know the fact that you know who she is means that she at least did something for you.
Well, I only found out about her because it was my brother found out. I don't know how he found out about her, so it wasn't anything that I was doing. He was just, hey, I found out about this third candidate. He shared it with me, and I said, oh, I never heard of her, but yeah, I'll check out her website.
Okay. So then pushing forward with the story at hand. So why don't you think? Why don't you think someone who's voting for Trump is a flat out racist and can't be someone you affiliate with? Why do you feel that's someone you can still affiliate with?
Well, I believe in getting to know people on a deeper level, where if you just go and ask somebody, hey, who did you vote for, or who are you going to vote for, and to sum up the entire content of their character on that one thing, to me, I think it's absurd.
I mean, okay, and you know what? I can yield to that. Me asking someone, "Hey, are you voting for Trump?" and they say yes, and me immediately saying, "Well, you're a fascist, racist, egocentric, environmentalist, hater, et cetera, et cetera." That is manic and sort of psychotic in a way, and not a good test of faith. But would I be fair in saying that this person who votes for Trump is okay with his racism, with his fascism, with his copious amounts of lies? Like, would that be a fair assessment?
I still don't think it would be a fair assessment.
Okay, then you got to explain that to me.
Sure. So, I mean, I'll put myself on the chopping block. So right now, I'm kind of like, man, I don't know. It's election time's coming up, and I'm like, man, I don't know who I'm gonna vote for. I sit there and you read this, read that, and I'm like, I don't like anybody they got. And I was like, can I write myself in? No, wait, not old enough yet. Okay. So it's still just because you could be depending on how you go about making your voting decision, maybe you're something, one specific policy or one specific piece of legislation that a politician passed or signed into law was greatly beneficial to you, something that maybe you wanted for a long time, and us as citizens of the nation, we are the constituents. So if you feel that, you feel strongly about something and you feel like you're not being heard, and now you have a candidate and some of the things that you wanted to changed, let's say it was, I don't know, we'll call it, for just keep it simple, something on tax reform. And let's say that there was a federal tax change that Trump signed into office that was greatly beneficial to you, and you voted for him because of that. And you run a company that has, you know, great diversity, and, you know, you treat everybody with dignity and respect, and you voted for him based on that principle alone. Well, to me, no, you're not automatically a racist.
No, you make a fair point and a fair assessment, but that's why I kind of phrased it in a way of you have to be okay with his racism and his demagoguery and his constant copious lie, because a lot of what people will say is something along that lines. He has a front-facing economic mindset that appeals to a lot of business people.
Absolutely.
But I then would hit people with the same sentiment with, if you're not making $1.7 million, you don't really fall into this category where his tax deductions actually make a difference to you. If you're someone who's making under $250,000, you only saw an increase of 3%. I mean, 33 cents in your paycheck per check. While to some people, that is significant. But to a vast majority of people, especially the people who are spouting this, it is not. So then I have to ask the question of, are you supporting him because of some odience you feel to him, or because you just don't want to side with the other side? Because historically speaking, Republicans have never had the best interest in their constituents' health, education, and ability to grow from the middle class. They're stagnant, and it sort of makes me wonder. I don't know if you're aware about the whole boat situation where they were on this lake and they were all in their boats, and a few of the boats sank. And the reason why that happened was because
who was in boats?
A bunch of Trump supporters went out on a lake in their boats, and some of the bigger boats were creating threshold waves that ended up pulling down a lot of the smaller boats. And it sort of was this poetic irony that these mega yachts were drowning out these smaller fish boats, sort of what the Republican Party does to their constituents. They corral them in this sense. They make them feel like they're part of the mass, the elite, and then they get drowned out at the end of the day. Because if we're looking at it from just a standpoint of just things that he said he wanted to do, he says he has a better healthcare reform plan, but never presented it, but is okay with removing Obamacare from people. Now, Obamacare isn't perfect, but you would be better off fixing it than you are tearing it away from 3,600 Americans. You would give them nothing ostensibly by doing that. So like, this leads to my second point. So I can definitely agree that, you know, my assessment of people isn't right, but from my core, I look at it this way. I'm not voting for Trump because I like Biden. I mean, I'm not voting for Biden because I like him, or even because I think he's a better candidate. I think the fact remains that he hasn't done things that Trump is currently doing that is unacceptable to me. You know, there's 4,000 kids missing in our country right now who were stolen from their parents on the border looking for refuge. And we don't know where these kids are. And us being a nation that is the number three biggest port for child sex trafficking and things of that nature, it's a daunting task for the party of, you know, of family values to not have a set concern about this. You know, for a person who has gone out of his way to make conflicts where they don't exist, the tariff wars, this war with TikTok, the fact that 200,000 people are dead from a virus that he knew about back in February. These things make him unfit. But some people say to me that Joe Biden is unfit, and I have to wonder, what is unfit about Joe Biden?
So that's I'm glad you brought that up. So you educated me earlier, something I had no idea about, where um, one thing that I think mental health is very important. And I had chalked up Joe Biden to me, I'm not a medical professional, but I was seeing him. I was speculating that he had signs of Alzheimer's or dementia, and I didn't know. Hero told me that they are subject to a medical evaluation and a psychological evaluation to evaluate the state of their mental health, both for the candidacy and then before they're sworn into office. Something that I absolutely had no idea about. That gave me they gave me some peace in the fact that there's some checks and balances to make sure that that does not happen. That we do not put,
Yeah.
because I mean, there, just look at all the majority of the politicians. Most of them are above the age of 45, and time catches up with everybody. And that was my only thing of just, as you begin to tear your, unfortunately, you see it in your loved ones. I have close friends that have parents with Alzheimer's that they don't recognize their own kids, and I don't believe somebody in that state is fit for the presidency. And that was the only crux
No.
of my argument.
So, and that's a fair assessment, and as a healthcare provider, I'm always going to challenge people on this when they say to me, he's not fit for presidency, because he has signs of dementia. And I'll ask them, what are some of the key components of dementia? What is the neural input and output, and the delta in change for a person of 45 and a person of 60 with dementia? Is it a +2 positive, or do you have to get it right on the money in order for this person to qualify? And they kind of look at me with the I don't know, and I'm like, so you don't know how to diagnose this disease that you're putting onto this person that you don't like for political reasons, but because you can't bow to that notion, or you don't have a way of articulating it, you go to the lowest common denominator, which is something that you've either heard or something that you just perceived. And I'm not saying that that's something you've done, but a lesser group of people have definitely fallen into that camp. So, like, the 25th Amendment exists for a reason, and it's to remove an unfit president. But I constantly challenge people to then tell me, what is the diagnosis for manic voyeurism, or some type of a constant lying or multiple or cognitive dissonance of some sort, which is, a compulsive liar. Trump is on record lying over 5,000 times on record, and literally will contradict himself, saying now that he never said the virus was coming on. That would be grounds for, multiple personality or cognitive dissonance or some type of mental distress or disorder, but yet you never mentioned that with him. So it's sort of like a play on these. You pick and choose when to use these notions, and that's not fair. So I always then try and get down to the crux of things. And me and Eric have talked about this ad nauseum. But
Heero, you and I both know that politics are not fair.
No, absolutely. But if you're going to have a conversation with me or you have to cut. I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Politicians can lie, but you can't. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's the status of the world we are. And Eric's constant, pushback is he would never vote for Biden. But I'm always telling him, so you're okay with what Trump's doing? No, Trump's a scumbag too. So I'm like, so then what's your choice? And not voting is the deepest sin. You could vote Republican, and honestly, I might be upset with you, but it's not going to change the way things really are between me and you. It's going to be a little bit of it's a misunderstanding that needs to be talked about, because moving to the second point, because not voting is not an option. That means you don't care. And for our second point is, what will Trump do for someone like you? Like, in the big picture of everything, if Trump wins November 4th, votes are in 2021, you voted for him, Does he affect you directly?
No, and that's I'm glad you brought that up. As I've begun to mull it around, let's say I vote for Trump, let's say I vote for Biden, and then I think it's you're so far removed from the president, and I say you, like I'll use myself as an example where I consider myself part of the middle class. I work a 9 to 5. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable.
He has a sweet car though, guys. His car's effing amazing.
Yeah, it's a 2003, so don't let him pump too much smoke up your butt.
Hey, hey, like I said, his car is still amazing. It's souped up.
I'd like to believe it is. But don't get me ranting on race cars because we'll completely derail this podcast.
I'll give you 10 minutes at the end of the podcast. I will sit here and start closing up shop, and I'll just let you have at it.
Yeah. So no, where I think one fundamentally, yes, vote. Regardless of who you vote for, vote. Don't fall into the trap of, oh well, my vote doesn't matter. So I will say that my vote doesn't matter directly to me, but me voting does matter. Where regardless if I vote Democrat or if I vote Republican, on my day-to-day existence, I pretty much do the same thing. I go to work Monday through Friday, sometimes weekends if there's emergencies. It's like I go to eat at local restaurants. I go to little family gatherings. There's like small social gatherings with close personal friends. And I try to treat everybody with dignity and respect. Rinse and repeat. Like, I don't live this extraordinary life. It's somebody could like study me day to day and like, oh, what's Guillermo really up to? And they go, all right, I'm kind of bored. He just kind of does the same thing over and over again. And so because of the position that I'm in, economically, socially, what have you, so I'll give you context. I'm first generation born here of immigrant parents from Mexico. I got lots of opportunities, and I have lived a very comfortable life. I feel very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. But I have voted in every single federal election since I've turned 18. And have I really felt directly affected or touched or connected to any one of the presidents? Not really. I mean, some of them, I will sometimes listen to the speeches, and some of them are really good speakers, and can capture an audience. But a lot of people do that. I mean, you ever heard of motivational speakers? That's what they do, And so that doesn't really hold anything. But I think more really what will directly affect you. I'll give you a personal example. So I think it's really important to vote for local government. And I'll cap it at the state level just to keep it more on the micro scale. But really, even more important than that, to your local city, town, village, or whatever where you live is designated. Because I'll give you an interesting example that happened to me. Is I live in it's a village, and it has a population of no more than 25,000. The place I used to live had a population of 50 to 55,000. So drastically cut, a lot smaller. The physical geography, you can cruise in and out of there in probably less than 10 minutes. It's pretty small. And the village president actually lives on my block. And during the last, so I move into this town or village, and I didn't know that historically, political races for I'll use mayor and village president interchangeably, but I didn't know how historically tight they were, and so they went, kind of grassroots campaigning, knocking door to door, and people from both the party that was in power, and then also the challenging party, the opposing party. And I ended up, long story short, is I end up having a a conversation. The mayor calls me from his cell phone on the day of the election. Yeah, my head was pretty freaking big. I was like, oh, I'm on the phone with the mayor. Look at me, you know? And I was like, I literally just moved here. I'm like, who am I, you know? But so it was kind of cool just in concept. You know, makes for a good bar story. But it's it's because I cared to get involved. Because when the door knockers came and they told me, you know, what their party was about and what their candidate that they were promoting was trying to do, and I asked questions. I engaged in dialogue. They were talking about the specifics of infrastructure, and I asked a lot of very specific, detailed questions that they were unable to answer in that time, and that's how they funneled me through. They said, "All right, well, we would really like." He goes, "You got good questions. Unfortunately, we can't answer them. Could we give your contact info to the mayor and he'll reach out to you?" And he eventually did, and we talked. But I highlight that story because I really want to emphasize the importance of getting involved at the local level. Brand new to the town, you know, they come knock on the doors, talk to the people that were campaigning with them, and I'm on the phone with the mayor. Like, I can't imagine a situation where I'm on the phone with the president of the United States. It's just too far removed. Put it into, give you more context. You know, a large corporation. If, you know, a corporation of, let's say, a couple thousand people, you may never ever engage with your president of the company, with your CEO of the company. They're the face of the company, sure. They get changed out. You still do your job. You still come to work. You used to go through 5 executive changes on the top level, and you don't really see a difference in your organization for what you do day to day. So it's kind of that where, yes, do go vote, because even though if you're in a position like me where you may not be directly affected, that vote will directly affect other people that are on those on those outer edges.
And therein lies, I think, the common ground where me and people like you can start to identify. Because if I was to ask you a series of questions, if I asked you, Guillermo, if there was a family of 6, a single mother with 6 children standing in front of you, and it was between her getting this vaccine for COVID so she can go back to work, or you getting the vaccine, what would you do?
I'll give it to her.
Okay. And if there was a situation where you had to wear a mask in order to protect people while you were doing your job versus not wearing a mask, is it something
I'd wear the mask?
All right. And if there were children in a cage in your city, in your county, being held and having hysterectomies done on them, would you go to the city town hall to make sure that to sign a petition to make sure this doesn't happen?
Absolutely.
So it's fair to say that you agree that someone who does this isn't someone you want running your country.
Yeah.
So if this is the gist of it, guys, this is the punchline. My reason for voting for Biden isn't because he's great. It's just because he's not doing those things right now. And he doesn't have a track record of doing it. And there's a bunch of people who will sit there and say, what about the 1984 crime bill? You know who else signed that bill? Bernie Sanders. Our Lord and Savior, as we see him walk every day. But people don't want to acknowledge that. Trump is doing this right now. His attorney general has equated Black Lives Matter to 12 people dying in 2019. He is the top police official in the country. Even I know that 320 plus black people were killed by police last year. But when you have a president like this in charge, it makes it easier for cronies like this to get away with it. The CDC is coming out with a vaccine that is going to be released on executive emergency use. I am not anti-vax, but there's no way you can get me to take that vaccine. And it's not coming from a place of despise or disdain for the president. It's because he just doesn't. This is a person who literally told a forest scientist that trees explode and that the fires will go away. He doesn't believe in the science. He believes in his ego. He believes in his presence. He believes in being right. And he lives in an echo chamber. And there's a great video from his town hall where he got to feel the wrath of an angry black woman, where he was about to interrupt her and she said, let me finish, sir. She hit him with it. And right there, for a split second, Trump realized that outside of his four walls in the Oval Office, that aren't really four walls, he's not safe. He isn't safe. But
I appreciate
if I'm just talking to, I'm here for it. But if I'm talking on the premise of that, then it becomes painfully simple. The reason why I'm voting is I'm voting for people who will be directly affected by Trump's decisions. I will never be in a position or a situation where I am going to have to line up and get food from the government or wait on a check from the government. I am blessed like that, and I'm grateful for that, but not everyone is. And some people will have to. And the fact that we have 523 plus bills waiting on the Senate floor to be heard, and one of them includes getting funding out to the people, which could be expedited by the Republican president, is a gaffe that I'm not willing to ignore. So when people ask me, what about Creepy Joe? And when I say, you know what? I'd rather have some dude who just inappropriately, but hasn't been charged with anything.
I'm sorry, it just sounds so bad though.
Yeah, it's so random, it's so bad. But guess what? What I can do. The identity booth won't go away if and when Biden wins. I will turn my aggression towards him. I will pursue every middle of the left Democrat I can find and replace them with people who believe in the science, who knows that these greenhouse gases are heating up our planet, who understand that we can't continue to live in truck like this, that, police reform conversations have to stop being conversations and start needing to resolve around action. These are the things that I believe I can actively make a difference. And this is me saying that, but my actions have also shown with my aggression towards Trump and his parties, with the calling of governors and calling of Congress and being politically active. I've made statements. I've done things. I've done my fair share to make sure that my government and way of life is consistent. I'm looking out for the little man. And when you vote, you're no longer really voting. You can't come from a place of selfishness. America has to get back to being about America. And the fact that, we can all have differences. We can completely have differences, but we have to be able to at least agree on civility and not arguing if we should be civil, because if someone wants to argue if you're being civil, then that person is out to cause mayhem. Civility. We have to understand that taking care of your neighbor, regardless of their creed, it trumps everything. We have to be able to understand that if one of us is suffering, we all start suffering. Just because you got your check doesn't mean that your taxes aren't going to benefit someone else. And if there's a homeless person if you're feeling like there's a demographic or a group of people who are manipulating the funds, just remember, Amazon didn't pay taxes last year. So before you point your finger at somebody in the welfare line, just make sure you know Jeff Bezos' name and that his 900,000 plus employees across the country are on welfare or getting some type of government subsidized funding. We in the middle have become very comfortable with blaming each other instead of the people on top. And the rule of comedy, you don't punch down. So I don't get why we're doing that in the society right now, punching down on our neighbors.
I'm just kind of trying to process all that you threw a lot at me there. I guess there was a lot of talking points there.
Which one stands out the most?
Just the so I'm an engineer by trade, and so anytime you bring up numbers and stuff is that where um I gotta combat you a little bit on where he didn't pay taxes. So it's like, yeah, let's punch up, but let's not where I think where we do a lateral punch and say punch each other and just say, well, Jeff Bezos is, let's say if somebody says Jeff Bezos is bad because he didn't pay taxes. And well, I said, no, time out. Let's go look at the people who are writing the tax legislation that are allowing that to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like Jeff Bezos is a scumbag just because he didn't pay taxes and he knows he didn't pay taxes. And to further press that,
but did he break any laws?
Knows that exactly, he didn't break any laws. But that is where and then it lies that you can't, like, are we arguing about his civility? Like, is he being civil? Is he thinking about his neighbors? Is he thinking about being being human?
Well,
to
does
us?
anybody that I'm painting broad strokes here, but does anybody that so if you're is it okay to be a billionaire?
Yes.
Okay, as long as you pay taxes. Did I lose your?
It's still, I know, no, the part of me, there's a part of me that wants to say yes, still, because if you're a billionaire, you didn't become a billionaire off of your own strength. Right. So like you use the city's electrical grid, you use the city's water, you use things that our tax dollars are paying to fund because you're not paying your fair share.
I mean, I'm sure he still has an electric bill to pay.
No, definitely, but like, it's been subsidized. Mm-hmm. So like that's us giving him a check from the people in order to keep him there. But that shouldn't be the gambit. The gambit is, no, you started this business. Everyone, if Uncle Tom and Joseph Donut Shop has to pay full price, why does Jeff Bezos get a discount? Like, if we're talking about being fair and civil, then yeah, I'm gonna say no.
This conversation is reminding me of it's a philosophy. It was an ethics philosophy class I took, where I think we're kind of getting into the territory of, how much is enough, what's fair, who determines what's fair.
I mean, I wouldn't be so egregious to say that everyone should pay a flat rate. I think it should be it should be tiered on what your company revenue is. Like, I don't think you should ask Uncle Tom and Joseph Donut Shop to be paying the same amount of taxes that Jeff Bezos is paying. But I'm just talking from a sheer civility point. Mm-hmm. The man got away with regardless of the tax loops or anything, the incentivized idea of not paying taxes. Mm-hmm. So like, if we're talking about living in a world where your concern is, and I hear this all the time on the right, Joe Biden will increase your taxes. No, he's going to tax the people who aren't being taxed right now. Mm-hmm. He's going to go after the people who have to pay their debt to society.
But here's the unfortunate reality about that. Once you tax those people too hard, that they don't like it, and they've already have so much resources, both in liquid cash and otherwise, that they can move about the entire planet and go set up shop elsewhere where it will be economically beneficial to them.
But guess what we've also seen, and I'm doing a video about this. Hopefully, I pray to God I'll be able to do this video about the good that Trump has done. And it's a good in a backwards way, because what Trump has shown us with the TikTok deal is you can harass companies. You can't, and with the ventilators, you can force these. And if this pandemic hasn't shown us anything, is that these companies, for all the expedited winnings and earnings that they've been earnings on top of earnings, double multipliers of earnings, and having all this money, and we have multiple billion-dollar companies 6 months ago going out of business 6 months later. If that isn't further proof that they don't know, that whether, I don't know if they don't know, but they're purposely manipulating or misusing their funds, what is? I mean, what other tell do we have? A GDP drop off of 35 points versus I'm using New Zealand of 12%. By them following the rules and having the strictest guidelines, not only will their economy recover faster, they're going to get back. They've been back to normal longer. So I say that to say this. For all the talks of they need to make profit, they need to make money, or they're going to leave, they were here making profit, making money. And they had to shut down because of a pandemic. And they couldn't last 6 months. That isn't a good sign that this company could even handle its own finances. So instead of us sitting here trying to argue whether them being here is beneficial to us, let's let capitalism.
Okay, but if the revenue stream stops, or if you have to stop the flow of your operation for 6 months, and you can't make it, then you say that it's mismanaged funds. What if you say that about an individual?
I mean, individuals, but this is the thing about individuals. Individuals aren't given the benefit of the doubt. Who bailed? The people are bailing out these companies right now. Like, think about it. In the grand scheme of things, someone who's lost their job back in March has only received.
Well, I'll use the car companies. General Motors, Ford didn't take a bailout, but Chrysler did. You talk about fairness and ethics, where people say, well, if we let these companies die, there will be thousands and thousands of people without jobs. This was such a driving force in certain economies where they didn't want to shut down these massive plants that employed so many people. And then also they made these cars with so many bucks. So the trickle down economics. So they thought it would be way more detrimental to let this company fail than bail it out.
So, but we already know trickle down economics don't work. If a company is going to fail, and you're concerned about the people and let's be frank, some of these line workers are making minimum wage. So they weren't really surviving anyway. They're still dependent on the government. Now, if this was a company that was paying $15 an hour, where they could actually have a living wage, or have some type of money, a certain amount of money that would make a difference, like a solid difference to their in-house income, then yeah, we keep this. But we have stats now backing it, stating places like Shake Shack got bailout money, about 10 million. We have things like YouTubers and influencers getting millions of dollars, when we have real mom and pop shops out there that couldn't get a dime. Right. So the manipulation is the problem here, and the manipulation isn't the fault of the people. So once again, if our leaders let us down, that's a major problem. But as a company, you have a moral obligation that and being.
Well, you would like them to have one, but I mean the evidence shows that they don't. So I mean, you could say they have a moral obligation. Okay, you and I can agree even.
But my moral obligation to them is to make a profit.
Okay.
And keep that company above water. Okay. And within 6 months of your year-over-year profit, your company is now begging the people to bail it out. That is a problem for me. That is a problem for me. That is my problem. Like, you can't come to me and after bragging about hitting 7 home runs, and then me as a person who's never pitched a day in my life strike you out 3 times. You can't talk on the bus. You have to go home quiet. So that's my only beef with it. But I feel like we've definitely gone off on this.
We have. It happens.
I don't know. Where are we? We're at 40.
I know. I'm just like, I just said 30. I'm just like, man, this is going to be a 3 hour.
All right. All All right, so then let's just get to the final point. All right. So, and I won't. You don't have to answer this question right now. You don't have to answer this question at all. This is not my fucking business. But it's the identity booth. So we're trying to identify. It's been well documented. I'm gonna vote for Biden. And after hearing my reasons, do you understand? Would you say I made a compelling argument for why voting for Biden is better than Trump?
Yeah, I would definitely concede to that. I think even a lot of people that are on the fence, or just to give a visual, if you're just a slight hair to the right, and you're like, oh, I don't know, like maybe you had disdain for Biden for whatever reason. Maybe you were like me and you said, oh well, the guy's got Alzheimer's, and then you come to find out he's got this. They got this fitness test, and they make sure that he doesn't have Alzheimer's. You're like, oh, all right, well then that changes everything. I think it is important to keep an open mind and think about these things, and think about that. Also, really, really think hard about, is the person you're voting for the presidency, is it going to make a difference in your day-to-day life? And if the answer is no, now ask yourself the second question. Is the person that I'm voting for going to affect other people's day-to-day life? The third question, what groups of people do I think are going to be the most affected by this choice I'm making today?
And I think that's an amazing those are amazing questions, and you have to really be selfless, because asking yourself straight up, does Trump affect my livelihood? Me personally, no, but my immediate family, yeah. Like if there's a bunch of young African princesses I want to bring to this country for academic reasons.
I used to get emails from them all the time.
Yeah, and they still waiting for those credit card numbers. Go ahead, send it over. But like the truth is, like, I want to get them into school, get them into college, get them moving in the right direction. But because of his harsh immigration reform holdout and constantly blocking people from getting into the country, while being okay with terrorist organization countries coming to the country, it begs the question, like, is this a merit-based situation? Is he interested in really progressing this country forward? There's a reason why a vast majority of our scientists and lead science expertise comes from out of the country. It's because we rank 17th on the national scale for STEM-like sciences. So we're hindering ourselves. And talk of people coming across the border, until the border became more strict, people didn't start staying, because usually the smart idea is to make your money here and go across and spend it. That's the genius way to do it. And when the revolving door was lubricated, that's process happened. Obama was, up until I think it was, and I'll have to check this. If I can find the number, I'll put it up now. But I believe it was up until August, Obama had deported the most people, and now Trump has now superseded him. So yeah, so it's sort of like, but under what cause? It's amazing how Obama did this with a humane touch, and the way that Trump managed to get to this number is by losing 4,000 kids. Like, that is something that has to be in the back of your mind. When people are coming here seeking refuge, you have to understand that this is a legal right given to them. When they come here, they shouldn't be put into eugenics experiments where they literally have a nickname for the doctor, which is the uterus collector. That can't be a thing happening in America right now. And as you move down these questions, truly soul search yourself, man. Think about how, like, your kids and the laws that will be put into place. I have a live stream coming on pretty soon that kind of talks about, the problem with Trump winning and the problem with our country becoming more conservative. Because conservatism for Republicans in this light, like the Ted Cruz's, it isn't about their ability to be liberated. It's their ability to hinder your liberation by telling you what you can and can't do with your body, who you marry, and how you live, your way of life. And if you're a person who enjoys freedom, you have to be a little bit stringent or jerkish when people start coming for other people who don't look like you. Because eventually, when they're done coming for them, they're going to come for you. And you want to make sure that you got backup. And you won't have backup if you don't defend your neighbor. And I think that's what, as all Americans, that's what we need to get back to doing. Watching each other's back, because we already know the government doesn't care.
Yeah, I will definitely agree with you on that point. It's about us. It's not, and you can harp on, the government. It's comprised of individual humans at the end of the day. The government is not this faceless entity. They're people.
No, for sure. And we're people. And this has been a podcast.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, say it, because I'm closing.
No, I know, close it out, because the next thing I was going to say would probably take another 30 minutes.
Well, Guillermo's going to have his own little rant session in a second. So we're going to end this by saying, this is a podcast where we identify with you as you constantly try to identify with us. And today we were talking about how whoever you vote for and the impact of it. Honestly, if you and this person are good friends, and
that's what the main thing was. We went so far from that.
Oh yeah, that's where we started. Imagine that. If you really have a bond, then I feel like that bond won't be destroyed by the likes of politics. But if you feel deeply in your core or your heart that this isn't something that you can do, you're entitled to feel that way, because you might have a direct someone sitting there telling you that people that look like you being oppressed is okay might not sit well with you, and that's okay. You're allowed to have this feeling, but don't let that feeling cloud your ability to try and identify with other people. And Guillermo, I appreciate you going into this debate with me, having the ability to speak freely on it, and bringing some challenging dialogue. Where can they find you if they want to hear more of your ideas?
Oh, well, I'm all over the interwebs, wherever major podcasts can be found. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes. Is that still a thing? Google Play.
Yeah, iTunes is still a thing.
I was just like, the branding changes, but and the Apple Podcast, the iTunes, the Google Play Music, Spotify, Player FM, Podcast Addict, and type me into whatever is your favorite podcast player, and
that name of that podcast is the Circuit of Life Podcast.
Circuit of Life Podcast. You will easily be able to find it.
He's first page on Google. It can't get no better than that. It's like finding the answers on test day. But for what it's worth, this has been a podcast. This has been two guys talking about a podcast. And this is the Identity Booth. My name is Heero. We're on a goal. We're on a mission. And that's to get to 300 subscribers. Like, share, subscribe. All that information will be in the description and comment section below. But damn it, 300. We're at 212. I'm giving y'all this good content. I deserve 1,000 followers. I'm not saying I deserve more than that, but I will humbly stop asking you guys about subscribing, sharing this, and liking this when I get to 1,000. That's a total lie. I'm going to bother you guys until I'm the most famous person on the internet. And then you'll have the ability to say that you're an identifier and you were here before all these bogus followers started showing up. All these freeway identifiers. Be an original. Put on your mask and take care of yourself. All right, I'm done. I get so angry at the end. All right. So much for 30 minutes.
I know, right? Well, I mean, you saw what happened. We were on the phone for like 2 hours and 15 minutes the other day. Yeah, because I ended up getting chewed by my wife that day. Yeah, I mean, no shade at you, man, but it was just, she was in one of the movies, and, oh, buddy. And I literally was sitting outside of the house, on the phone with you, because on another time, I had come in